Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the world's most watched professional wrestling news program. Welcome to the Pro Wrestling Report. Dameon Nelson sitting here alongside the man they call Meathead. Meathead, how you been?
Do you have enough time? I am on plugged
The
in.
more important question is, does anyone care?
I'm on codeine. For relaxers. And I'm feeling great, baby. Let's rock and roll.
Is that why you grew the Brett Favre tribute beard there? Because
No,
of the drug use?
You know what this is? Because I'm a dog, bruh. It's a South Park reference. You may get it, you may not.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this week's edition of the Pro Wrestling Report. We've got quite a bit of stuff to talk to you about today, so let's roll right into it and talk about, obviously, what is the biggest news story swimming around the wrestling world, and that is Kurt Angle's new role in TNA.
As
Kurt
predicted.
Angle, as we said on this program several weeks ago.
As I said.
I don't think you did.
I did say, Kurt Angle, TNA, you go, I don't know, no compete, I don't know. Folks.
I was inaccurate.
Right here.
I was inaccurate in my assessment of the situation, but Kurt Angle, let's give you a little backtrack, folks. Released from WWE for various reasons, many of which Kurt has gotten more into detail about, many of which WWE has gone into more detail about. But the end result, Kurt Angle goes over to the other side, if you will, the dark side, maybe you can call it.
I did that once.
TNA, Total Nonstop Action Wrestling. Now, Christian Cage, Kurt Angle are the two big voluntary departures from WWE over into TNA. Meathead, the question that's out there is, what does this do for TNA, Total Nonstop Action Wrestling? Is this the big move they needed? Is this the catalyst that will propel them to that level of being the legitimate number 2 organization?
It was here. Now it's here.
It went down a notch?
And then
Or the comparison between the two?
WWE, TNA. It was here. It's there. It got closer. There's still all of this right here to work with. Kurt Angle going over, huge coup. If you want to relate it to something in wrestling terms, because I know all you wrestling fans are doing this, you could call it the Hogan to WCW.
Ooh, that's what Kurt said. Kurt Angle said that. Said it was the biggest move since Hogan went to WCW.
Did not know that. I didn't do that on purpose.
It's in the notes here.
You could call it Hogan, but it's not the final catalyst. They need another couple moves.
Like, since you predicted this Kurt Angle thing, why don't you go ahead and Carl Love it for us?
If The Rock showed up in TNA, that'd be it. It's not going to happen.
One-time deal, long-term deal?
More than a one-time deal, but not a long-term deal. An appearance deal.
Bigger or equal to or not quite as good as the Christian move to TNA?
Bigger.
I would agree. Kurt Angle had several things to say in a recent radio interview with Bubba the Love Sponge.
Yeah, Bubba.
First, Kurt says that he really wasn't treated right in WWE. He says that he was overworked to a breaking point with house shows and appearances, and that his wife is pregnant with her second child, and he's expecting to give birth within the next month or two. Now, as you remember...
He's expecting to give birth?
As you remember, we said one of the issues that WWE stated for Kurt Angle's release was his wife was going to leave him, he had a new kid on the way, and didn't quite have his mind together enough to continue the bump and grind, if you will, of WWE traveling. Angle goes on to say that he told Vince McMahon that he had a serious pain pill addiction at one point and needed to enter rehab. Now, according to Kurt Angle, the response was Vince would not let him. He then responded to Vince, did Kurt Angle, saying, I'm going to die, quote unquote. And Vince told him to figure out his problems on the road. Now, this is somewhat uncharacteristic of what we've seen from WWE in the past. Look at what they did with other big names who needed to go into rehab and needed to take time off. Now, obviously it's different when there's an injury, when you look at what happened to Batista. But Kurt Angle legitimately brought the problem to the attention of WWE management and allegedly was not allowed the opportunity to take care of his issues.
I think we're seeing one side of the story. Obviously, every story has more than one side. There could be 2, 3, 4 sides to the story. According to Kurt Angle was the cash cow for WWE, and he was not allowed to leave because WWE was still suckling at his teat. Okay? Now, if you were to ask Vince, and trust me, you take everything Vince says with a grain of salt. The man is a businessman. He's going to give you his business perspective. I'll buy every one of those words. But there's always a little bit of truth and a little bit of fabrication to each side of the story. The way I see it is Kurt was losing control of his life. And granted, being on the road, all those over 200 days a year on the road, is going to do that to you. The bump and grind, quote unquote, from Kurt Angle, and the bump and grind, no pun intended, from the wrestling business is going to do that to your body, to your mind, and everything else. We don't want to see Kurt Angle, and I think I mentioned it on this program probably within the last month to 2 months. Kurt, please don't end up like Brian Pillman. Please don't end up like an Eddie Guerrero.
Eddie.
I don't use the name to get over and sell more merch.
Oh.
I'm using the name as a story.
Oh. You have to clear. Thanks for...
You're welcome. So what we need Kurt to do is to evaluate. Now, there was many rampant stories going on out there about Kurt being separated from his wife, Kurt stalking his wife, Kurt stalking women, Kurt losing his mind mentally. I almost said physically, but that doesn't work.
That happened a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Kurt, we're just asking you, do what you think is right for you and your family. Now, if TNA is going to give you a more flexible schedule, obviously they don't do house shows yet. So if showing up for a month's worth of tapings on a night after a pay-per-view is the way to go, so be it. Hopefully you can take care of your family that way.
One thing that Kurt Angle talked about was his drug problems, and the radio hosts on Bubba the Love Sponge speculated as to how many Vicodin pills Brett was... I said Brett. I think Vicodin, I think Brett Favre. How many Vicodin pills Kurt Angle was taking a day? They estimated 15. He said about 4 or 5 times that. Kurt Angle says at one point he was taking around 65 to 70 pills a day.
That's out of control.
But stating, of course, that he is very lucky to be alive after such a problem with drugs. Kurt Angle has a lot to say about Triple H, the man who is Vince McMahon's son-in-law, married to Stephanie McMahon. He says that he had a lot of heat with Triple H because Triple H just simply would not put him over. He goes on to say that he tapped out, did Triple H, to Chris Benoit because Benoit had no charisma. Jerry Briscoe suggested Triple H do a shoot fight with Angle to see how much Angle's size really mattered because Triple H said Angle was too small to be champion. Triple H backed down on Angle not getting the belt. Kurt Angle also says that he was very close to signing a big contract with the K1/MMA company to fight Brock Lesnar. Now, is there still money in that matchup? We saw it at WrestleMania 19, I believe it was.
Angle Lesnar? Yeah, absolutely. Two former, amateur champions. WrestleMania 19, as you were stating, what a great match they put on. I mean, the moves, Brock Lesnar, a little sloppy in some of those moves. Obviously, he hurt himself during that match. But I think there's still money in that match. There's also money in Angle Goldberg out in the K1. Angle, whoever else is out there right now. Angle is still money. That's why TNA is very lucky and fortunate to have gotten Angle in their company. And they're going to be able to manipulate them financially and merchandise-wise, be able to sell all the Angle T-shirts with Impact on his little mouthpiece and all that other good stuff. They're going to make a killing on this. But does Kurt Angle...
That's the truth.
It's damn real. They're going to make a killing on this, but is this really what's going to be best for Kurt's career? Obviously, he will return to WWE. I don't care what anyone says. There will be a moment where he returns to WWE. I'm going to Carl Love it right there. Kurt Angle will be back in WWE.
The big question that's out there now, TNA to WWE, clearly a distinct difference between the two brands. As you stated before...
Two companies. Don't start with the brand.
Two companies. As you stated before, TNA doesn't do much touring, if any at all. They wrestle 2 or 3 times a month for TNA. The tapings for the television program and the pay-per-view. A much lighter schedule than WWE schedules, which is TV every week, on the road every week, promotional appearances, and all kinds of other stuff. Now, will that draw prove to be too appealing to many other athletes who are currently in WWE? And will we see, not when WCW offered tons of money to these athletes to come over and work a lighter schedule, but will TNA become the place for WWE wrestlers to go who are just sick of the day-to-day bump and
Let me change that for you, because you know what? The more they get those top-name wrestlers into TNA, TNA will now fluctuate their schedule to become more like WWE. WCW used to tape a show, once a month, whatever it was. You'd see 4 or 5 TV tapings. Once they got the big enough names and proved they could go out on the road and make money, bam, there goes that day-to-day grind again. So it's going to be there. The more names they get, the more they're going to become like WWE. Now, granted, WCW, when they were running, at their most profitable, still were only doing Monday Night Nitro, and Thunder was not live at that point.
Was that even a show, Thunder?
Thunder was not live at that point. And then they did maybe a house show or two a week. So also your house shows never had your top name guys. So the guys that are looking for that break from the road still could probably find it in TNA. But again, the more names you get, the more you're going to become like WWE.
One of Angle's final statements in this particular interview was that his deal with TNA is non-exclusive, and TNA was actually encouraging Angle to pursue shoot fighting in the UFC. However, it's actually the UFC that told Angle he needs to be exclusive to them. UFC offered Angle a 5-year, multi-million-dollar deal to do nothing more than a fight or two and appear in the crowd at UFC events, which he declined.
It's the competitive spirit of Kurt Angle. He wants to get in there, he wants to compete, he wants to be involved. Just like Rock has said, just like everybody else that's been in this business, K-Fed and so forth, have said that it's the... Yeah, I did that.
At least he wasn't champion. Let's just say that.
Trust me, watching that previous Raw, when that happened, I'm like, okay, better champion. David Arquette.
He took the FU pretty good.
He didn't get up right away, but he took it better. I mean, because you could see... It was kind of sloppy, the way he jumped up onto Cena. Maybe it was Cena, maybe it was K-Fed, who knows, but... He took the bump fine. Anyway, I continue to think better champion. David Arquette and K-Fed. David Arquette's a better champion. Yeah. I lost my train of thought.
Anybody would when talking about Kevin Federline.
Who is that? I'd spear Brittany.
Continuing along the TNA track, as you heard, the big announcement that they were moving on November 16th to prime time on Spike TV, Thursday nights at 8 o'clock. Looks like the first show is going to be a 2-hour special, and then it will continue to be a 1-hour program after that. Now, 1 hour or 2 hours, is TNA making the right move? Is Spike TV making the right move by only having them on for an hour as opposed to 2?
It depends. You got to think back to the time when SmackDown was in primetime, when Thunder was in primetime. Because remember, Thunder was a Thursday night, 7 to 9 o'clock show. 9:05, call it whatever you want. SmackDown, when it started, was 7 to 9 hard, right at that 9 o'clock. You got to think about the time of, the timeline when it happened. Wrestling was hot. Wrestling is not hot right now.
Getting hot.
It's not
it's like
hot.
The stock market. It's coming
back.
back.
It's not hot right now. So, with wrestling going back into that spot, I think they're fine in an hour. If wrestling continues to blow up, as Dameon is saying, you can always expand. What's on afterwards? CSI? You can play that whenever you want.
Jeff Jarrett,
what about him?
The current NWA champion, even though he ain't got the belt, as was rumored to be involved in an angle which would have given him about 4 months off of TV, thank God, but to come back as a babyface, the good guy.
Who would buy Jeff Jarrett as a babyface?
That's the question.
Thank you.
Is he that hated that he is a heel for life? And is Jeff Jarrett, with these big names coming in, are his days of running rampant in TNA over?
I wouldn't say his days of running rampant are over. Jeff Jarrett will always have a say and stroke in the company. That is TNA. I have a prediction for Bound for Glory.
Well, you and these predictions for
I have to
Bound
throw
for Glory,
this,
which is this weekend.
I have to throw this out. And if you're watching us Monday, it was just yesterday. I have to throw this out. WrestleMania 9 finish at the pay-per-view.
WrestleMania 9, which was, if you don't recall, Yokozuna versus Bret Hart for the WWE Championship. Yokozuna wins the belt. Hulk Hogan comes out. Bret Hart's got salt in the eye. Hogan goes in, 1, 2, 3. Leg drop, 1, 2, 3, becomes the new WWE Champion. And Bobby Heenan made the one-liner that I will never forget, which is, you mean to tell me Yokozuna was a champion for 5 minutes? Who's going to be that person, though?
Samoa Joe is your Hulk Hogan.
Hey, now.
I've got the belt. Let's do this.
Apparently, on this past Thursday's Impact, while we are airing on Friday on the World Wide Web and on Monday in Milwaukee, there was a big announcement from TNA about the title situation with Samoa Joe.
Okay.
Don't know what that announcement was. I don't read spoilers. We're a spoiler-free zone, folks.
I'm not a fan of spoilers. I only do it when I don't have the time to watch the product. I like to enjoy it myself. I like to watch... I literally watch Raw sometimes on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. I will not read the internet until I have watched Raw. Until I have watched ECW, then I'll go to the boards and I'll read afterwards. When I watch the Packer game, if I'm working that day, I literally...
Well, you know they're going to lose.
I literally am able to make it through every customer's home and not see any football. I go home and I watch it on my time.
This show emanates from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Packer country, if you will. The Bears are currently 5-0. How does that make you feel?
I can't hate these Bears. They haven't done anything for me to hate them.
They stumbled across a win last Monday night.
Ha! That was outstanding. You know what was outstanding about it was in a segment I have on ESPN Radio, 1510 Days, 1290 Nights, called Fantasy Sports Weekly. In a segment I like to call Beat the Meat, my contestant had to try to beat the meat. The Meathead had LaDainian Tomlinson, and he had the Chicago Bears defense. The two of those combined for 7 touchdowns. That was good.
Scott Steiner is apparently holding off on re-signing with TNA. There are rumors that TNA is looking at a Steiner Brothers reunion. And what the TNA organization is doing nowadays is they want to sign all of their wrestlers to not exclusive contracts, but they want to control their independent bookings as well, which means TNA, the organization, would then book them on the independent shows and then pay the wrestlers so that TNA has more control over that situation. Scott Steiner said to be unhappy with that, along with several other wrestlers.
Why wouldn't you be?
Why he is not re-signing at this point in time with TNA.
Why wouldn't you be upset with that? They want to control. They want to be your pimp, is what they're trying to do.
It's a point Kurt Angle made. WWE owns their wrestlers. He works for TNA. The difference being he is allowed to, now granted Kurt Angle's situation is significantly different than most others. He works for TNA, but has the freedom to go and work for other organizations if he wants. Kurt Angle even went on to say that Big Show would do huge in Japan.
Oh, of course he would.
Working fewer dates, make a lot more money, be a spectacle over there.
And that's all he would be, is a spectacle. The name and a spectacle. He wouldn't have to do anything. He could be the sloppiest worker in the business. But he's a big man, and he would be over huge.
Jericho, Chris Jericho. This past Thursday's Impact, you saw the opening with Fozzy performing in the TNA Impact Zone, but not really there live. It was a video debut produced by some of the producers of TNA. Now, what does this mean? A lot of speculation has been running all over the world about Chris Jericho coming on board to TNA.
It's his first day.
To TNA. Now, Jericho says to be done with wrestling, wants to do his music. Could he be the next person, the next new face of TNA?
If you were to say that Christian was the
Christian!
Scott Hall, Kurt Angle
Christian!
was the Kevin Nash, Jericho would be the, Kurt Angle would be the Hulk Hogan. Jericho would be the Kevin Nash. They need a couple more.
Or the X-Pac.
He wouldn't be the X-Pac, that's for sure. Remember when Jericho debuted in WWE? He wrestled X-Pac.
Debuted the first time or the second time?
No, he debuted X-Pac and Road Dogg for 3 months. That's all he wrestled was those
The diaper
guys.
match?
Yo.
That was at a Royal Rumble.
Ugh.
Yeah, that's pretty sad. No signs of a return for Monty Brown. I know you're depressed at home after hearing that news, but no signs of a return for Monty Brown. Apparently, Monty Brown is a personal trainer, makes a great deal of money doing that, loves the part-time schedule of TNA. They're said to be interested in him from WWE, but not ready to make that commitment to be on the road so many days a year and pass up his opportunity and his job that he has making lots of money as a personal trainer.
He would lose his business if he joined WWE.
However, you look at a Booker T who has a wrestling school, you look at Ric Flair who owned a couple of gyms while he was on the road.
He didn't have anything to do with it. His name was on there. He agreed to do this, this, or this. That was it.
A blow to TNA, yes or no? Monty Brown not being around, no more pounds.
A minor blow. Because he's a name, he's a marketable name. He was over with the fans. Some people didn't like him. Some people didn't like him.
I couldn't stand him.
But Monty Brown is over. I mean, Monty Brown was
Can't stand you.
was a workable name in TNA. So, yeah, it's kind of a blow, but they'll be able to recover from it.
WWE news, he's coming to get ya. He's back in WWE after his release from WWE a couple of weeks ago. He was apparently lobbied to come back by Booker T, which explains a little bit why Booker T has taken the Boogeyman to learn up some wrestling skills at Booker T's wrestling school down in Houston, Texas. Now, the Boogeyman. You're a mark for the Boogeyman. And
yeah, you know what I'm happy about is the fact that not only does this explain why Booker worked Boogeyman at WrestleMania, they must be getting along.
It's a black thing.
He must be a good guy. He must be a guy good enough that Booker decided to take him under his wing. Say, look, I'm going to
make you my special project, boy.
I'll train you. I mean, I'll take care of you. You can live here. He's probably got a Canyon-sized, cabin in the back.
Who better than Canyon?
Remember, Canyon used to put guys in the back house while he was training.
He called it his own little YMCA.
He sure did. Canyon was awesome. I miss Canyon too. Better than Canyon. He sounded like a line from the Wizard
Canyon
of Oz.
and Ric Flair recently having a bit of a spirited, but not
A tiff.
not an argument, but a realistic debate on a Howard Stern program about why he was released from WWE.
I don't buy anything that Ric Flair says about anyone.
The
I
question
find the
on the
man.
table-
I find the man to be a liar. The question on the table is Boogeyman back in WWE. You know, if
He
Booker
didn't
T.
do that thing.
Yeah, if Booker T can train this guy, if Book can train him, and I mean,
His name is King Booker.
yeah, if Booker T can train him and get this guy back to where I think the Boogeyman gimmick was amusing, but he was a terrible worker.
Horrible would be the word I'd
Sloppy.
use, actually.
Oh.
John Cena's in a movie, folks, and in case you haven't seen it, because a lot of people haven't, it's called The Marine. To date, it has done about $8.5 million. The movie cost WWE about $23 million to make. They need to gross about double that in order to make any type of money. Keep in mind, they still haven't made a dime off of See No Evil. Does this show or signify the impending end of WWE films?
No.
It seemed like it was going to be an easy do. What I mean by that is you spend a little bit of money on a movie, put it out there, market it right, get a few people, curious people to come by and pay tickets to watch it. You make a little bit of dollars. It's a win-win situation.
You've got the wrong guy.
That hasn't happened.
You've got the wrong guy. Because remember, there is such an anti-Cena stink out there. Granted,
Going away.
There's a pro-Cena stink out there as well. And I say
If you're
stink.
12.
I say stink because, you know what, there are people that defend John Cena to this very day. And you know what, I'm right on the line now. I have nothing against John Cena. I don't care for him. I don't hate him. John Cena I could do with or without.
Do you respect him?
I respect the fact that the man works every day. That's what I had for Kurt Angle. That, right there, would be the
He
one
just
to
had
put
an
it,
epiphany.
That would be the one to put it over.
John Cena?
John Cena and
Ah, there's
TNA.
no chance. He's loyal to WWE
That's
as
why
can be.
that would do it.
Well, back to that, since you brought it up again, let's think about the mistakes WWE has made. Remember when they granted unconditional releases to Vince Russo and Ed Ferreira?
I remember the day.
And they became
it was a
the
weekend.
saviors for Nitro, if you will.
It was a weekend. It happened on a Saturday. And they showed up on Nitro on Monday.
Rumors that WWE is interested in Ken Shamrock. 42-year-old Ken Shamrock,
what?
who just had on Spike TV was Shamrock Ortiz 3, a UFC special. It did about a 3.1 rating, which is not very far from what Raw is doing. Vince McMahon said to be panicked and wants to get Shamrock not out of UFC as much as back to WWE to hurt UFC. Everyone's saying,
What's he going to do in WWE? I hope
he's going to knuckle up.
Does that mean he's going to wrestle? Why?
Remember Ken Shamrock when he first came over to WWE, though? He learned wrestling very, very fast and became a formidable competitor in
Intercontinental
WWE.
champion.
Yes, indeed.
Remember when Ryan slapped him? And Shamrock's yelling at her, "Slap me!"
Yeah.
It was his sister.
Pay-per-views, folks. We got some news on pay-per-views. If you were wondering what the top pay-per-views thus far this year have been in WWE land, surprisingly enough, the list, of course, topped out by WrestleMania and the majors, but following those, ECW's One Night Stand 2 pay-per-view, the Great American Bash
How's
from
that surprising?
SmackDown,
That's surprising.
and Unforgiven.
The Great American Bash. That's surprising.
Yeah.
Because it was a SmackDown pay-per-view, folks.
And nobody watches those. Come on now. Wasn't it the one with the Punjabi prison match with the Big Show and Undertaker?
Yeah, the match that the Great Khali brought in, and he was the master of, which he wasn't wrestling in. We haven't seen the man since.
Not missing them.
Not
That's
missing
like
him
you
either.
should have this tank of people where you put
That's
wrestlers
very
you don't care about
WCW
in.
for that to happen.
I don't think he'd fit in a Hummer.
That's very WCW. It was black. It's very WCW for him to have that happen.
Each and every one of those pay-per-views are over their 2005 numbers. So again, back to the point I made earlier, wrestling business certainly in an upswing. There's a lot of buzz now, folks, with TNA coming on board, getting that primetime spot, having Kurt Angle, putting on good shows, and WWE arguably putting on better shows as of late. The rehash of the ECW brand. There's a lot going on in professional wrestling.
There's buzz. There's a lot of activity. ECW is not a positive thing, in my opinion.
Psychosis, remember him?
I love Psychosis. He was outstanding.
He was an outstanding car thief as well. In Tijuana
Hey,
recently,
now.
Psychosis arrested for not only stealing a car from a neighbor, but running over an 18-year-old woman and crashing several cars with that stolen vehicle.
What
Now,
if he was psycho and it was on pills?
having been to Tijuana, I know that they are corrupt as corrupt can be down there, but this all appears to be very legit. We don't have any word on what has happened since
You ever
with
see a donkey
psychosis,
show?
whose real name is Donicio Castellanos.
You ever see the donkey show?
We looked for the donkey show, and I believe it's an urban myth.
No. Try Clerks 2.
That is WWE News. We've got an email here from a viewer, a longtime viewer of this show, since we've been on the air since 1998. His name is?
That'd be the King of Suede.
Dave Bobke. And you didn't even see this email. You're good. You're good. Oh, is that where you heard? Good grief, it's been too long. Well, Dave, we agree. Howdy, I'm Dave Bobke, also stealing Meathead's gimmick. He put a bunch of M's in there. Is it just me, or is RVD falling back into obscurity? Finally, he got pushed as a real live main eventer, and now he's pretty much back at low main event at best status. When's the last time this guy wrestled for the ECW title? Seriously wrestled for the ECW title, as in actually had more than a snowball's chance in hell's shot.
The last time was One Night Stand 2.
Crime Time. I gotta say, I like these guys. Of course, it was Paul Heyman that brought them together in OVW. And give these guys a month, they'll help solidify the tag team situation if Vince lets them, which I'm pretty sure he won't. TNA. I've seen the last few pay-per-views of theirs, and I am thoroughly impressed. They add one, maybe two more serious former WWE talents, and they are in incredible shape to make Vinnie Mac sweat through his business suit. Samoa Joe, even I, the RVD mark, may have to say that Joe is the best in the business right now.
I wouldn't debate that. I still love Rob, but Joe's got it, man. Joe's got the fans behind him. They even tried making Joe a heel for a bit. Joe's got it going on.
Did you get a chance to pick up Eric Bischoff's book?
I actually have it being delivered right now.
From Amazon.com?
Wrong. From the 3-letter. And because it comes with the Monday Night Wars DVD.
From WWE? You ordered from Shop Zone, WWEshop.com?
Because it comes with a free DVD.
Thank you, Dave Bobke, for that email. Folks, we got a couple of announcements to make. Top fives are absent from this program, but we are pleased to announce that coming to the World Wide Web at pwrshow.com and our exclusive channel on YouTube, the all-new Daily Dose. Daily content, daily video content featuring our buddy, our pal, Frank Cosentino, who's going to be joining us as soon as we are done with this particular show on over in the top 5 category. And we will be bringing you our top 5s, the 5 people we think are the best, or the top 5 names that are most influential in the professional wrestling business for that week. Each day of the week, you can join Frank on the website, pwrshow.com, to see our daily dose, our daily video content on the World Wide Web. We're bringing it to you, the fans.
That means I got to dig out my old porns.
Dave Bobke had something to say about porn. I don't know if you know anything about that, but you might want to look into it. We are celebrating on YouTube, folks. For the last 9 months, we have achieved over 100,000 video downloads. 100,000 video downloads on YouTube. You put that on top of our over 81,000 video downloads on Google and over 50,000 plus on our own website, pwrshow.com. You've got well over 200,000 downloads of videos since February of this past year. Folks, I tell you, we don't just say we are the world's most watched professional wrestling news program, but we are the world's most free professional wrestling news source. No stupid pop-ups, no computer hacking files once you go to sites trying to find out news. Just stick with us.
Pop
and we'll
throughs,
take
pop
you
unders, pop overs.
in the right direction. That is this week's edition of the Pro Wrestling
that went
Report,
fast.
ladies and gentlemen. It
That
did.
went fast.
We are going to sign off, and remember, check with us every single day as we bring you the Daily Dose with our buddy, our pal, Frank Cosentino. For Meathead, this is Dameon Nelson signing off, and we'll see you next week right here on the Pro Wrestling Report.